What's the over-under on something that I do in these videos? Please let me know. Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey, chapter 121. It is the last day of the week, aka the shotgun dropkick workout. I am feeling pretty good, actually. Feeling great, honestly. Haven't felt this great in a while. Knees feel great, lower body feels great, upper body a little sore, but hey, it is what it is. It doesn't even matter. But anyways, we are on the way to the gym right now. We are going to do squats. Didn't forget my squat shoes today, thank God. But anyways, back to the main subject matter at hand. Why did this come up? Honest to God, it's just because I got a random commercial for FanDuel the other day, and I was like, I would like to talk about this, but it is time to talk about it. I think I'm gonna do more of these randomly because there are a lot bigger, deeper subjects that I would like to touch upon, and that is gambling. Gambling, yes. Gambling, because there's a lot of gambling nowadays. Gambling has been made legal in my state for like the last 2 years, I think now. I think 2 years plus. And I want to just discuss it in its entirety because gambling is one of the bigger vices that is prevalent nowadays, and I think that it is something that I thank God I don't have money, because I know I could easily get lost in gambling. And I think I'm glad that I know that. Because of the fact that I know that, I can stop myself from getting into it. I'm worried that whenever I do get a job and get money and whatever, I might end up getting into gambling a little too much. But I also know that there is a level of me that is kind of like, not necessarily disgusted by gambling, because disgust isn't the right term, but a little bit more put off by gambling, just because I know that the darkness that looms behind it. So maybe I'll get into like, what is gambling, what is all that stuff, and maybe like a little bit more as to like what gambling is for me, you know, all that in the voiceover. I'll say this in the part now. The reason why I wanted to go over this subject in particular today was because of the normalization of gambling that has kind of occurred over the past like 10 plus years with sports gambling in particular. That's the main one I kind of want to focus on, is sports gambling, because sports gambling has become a big fucking deal, and not only a big deal, but also starting to become a slight issue with some players too, which is also something that's interesting to me. But it's like an unforeseen consequence. What do you mean these players are betting on themselves? Why wouldn't they want to make more money? But anyways, I wanted to discuss that and maybe a little bit get into like the psychology of it and all that stuff. But on this part right here, I would like to discuss a little bit more the sports betting and how it is probably a bad idea in general, just because I feel like nowadays with sports, even though, yeah, it's cool to bet on stuff like that, but I feel like these scandals with players and all this other stuff is just gonna get worse and worse and worse until there's gonna be either reformations or just, you know, we're gonna find out scandals years later that there was betting, just like that one NBA ref. Those types of things are gonna come out later, and it's gonna be like, oh, these guys threw the game. The entire Black Sox ordeal that happened in 1919, that feels like such a long time ago, but still, what, it's like 100 years ago plus? Yeah, that's a long time ago, but we're still equipping ourselves to make the same mistakes that we made hundreds of years ago. Now, I'm not gonna be one to say gambling is all evil, like you can't have fun with it, blah blah blah, because I'm not gonna be a Debbie Downer on it, but there's such a dark side to gambling that it is, that everybody like knows, but they joke about it, but then they don't actually like, you know, sit down and realize that there are probably people out there that have ruined their entire lives because of it. There are people who fucking are truly addicted to it, to where, like, you know, if they start, they cannot stop. I mean, like, it was a joke for Kramer in Seinfeld where he would be like, he can't gamble because once he started, he wouldn't be able to stop. But it's like, that's how seriously it goes. Like, people fucking lose their livelihood, they lose their houses, they lose a bunch of shit because of this type of stuff. And I mean, I get it. I'm not gonna be one to be like, oh, you can't joke about dark shit. But I think it's sometimes nice to like step back and look at it from an objective point of view of, oh shit, this shit is actually bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, be careful about this shit. I'll also say this right here. I'm not going to shit on people who play the lottery. The lottery is basically gambling, but it's also throwing away your money. Like, literally, you're throwing away your money even more so, because the lottery is something that is so few and far between that it's not your actual likelihood of it winning it is so minuscule that you're just throwing your money away. But I'm also not against the lottery either as well, because even I could get sucked up into the hype sometimes and want to play it. It's more for the lottery itself. I feel like it's more of a hope and a want for something good to happen in your life. You know what I mean? Like if you pay these $2, all of a sudden you get paid forward a bunch of money, that entire thing, which is a slight different mental facility than something like gambling, which it is slightly similar, obviously, but I feel like there's it's coming from slightly different places, and maybe we'll get into the voiceover, maybe it'll be its own episode. I'll have to wait and see, because it is a slightly different subject, I feel like. But I wanted to focus on gambling here. Gambling is here to stay because a lot of laws have been made in order to allow it to stay. It'll probably be legalized in even more states than it is now, just like weed, which will be a whole other episode too. But at the end of the day, it is still a vice that people need to remember is a vice. And I feel like a lot of people forget that it is one. I feel like it's become such a normalized and throwaway thing that people don't realize it's theory. People can ruin their lives with it. And of course, we'll get into all the details on the inside. All right, so I start this day off with decline press because I didn't do it the day before, so that's why I did it on this day. Kind of random, but I just wanted to get it in because I want to work on my lower chest. But anyways, before I continue on with this subject, I want to say this because I know I'm going to get misinterpreted on this, and I know a lot of people are going to say something about it. I'm okay with gambling generally, okay? If you want to go gamble, if you want to go do that stuff, that's fine. I actually kind of don't care if you do. It is up to you per se. For me, I don't do it, but that's just because I know it. But I know my personal proclivities if I do start gambling. And also, I don't have money, so either one. So I don't want you to think that I'm shitting on somebody who does gambling, who likes to gamble and whatnot and all that other jazz. I just wanted to point out more so the entire idea of gambling, and then how sometimes if you aren't self-aware of your issues and or demons, that they can become detrimental to you a lot, you know, and people can become not self-aware of what is causing them to go down that rabbit hole of hell. And I just wanted to point that particular thing out because I feel like a lot of people won't stop and reassess themselves on what is taking up their time and vices and all that other stuff, and kind of get lost in the sauce. And that could be literally anything. But I wanted to focus on gambling today because gambling was just become such a like common thing. But I do think that there is some level of seriousness to it, you know, because there are certain things that make absolutely zero sense. I mean, you have the athletes now who are gambling on themselves or gambling on their own sports, and I have a feeling we are on the tip of the iceberg when it comes to that. I really, really, really am very interested to see later on when more scandals come out, because at this point, it's not if, but when. And I don't necessarily care per se as like, oh my God, like this team sucks, this is like crazy. But it's a whole other level of, I wouldn't say cheating, but also like this is going to become a reoccurring issue, I feel like, in sports, and that's going to be annoying because you already have to deal with like cheating allegations depending on the sport and all that other stuff, you know, roids and all that other jazz. But even that's just like a tip of the iceberg. Imagine somebody like losing a game on purpose in order to win a parlay or something like that. That is quite literally insane. That literally changes the course of history of the game, you know? So it'll be interesting to see how it affects it. Sure, there are certain sports where one person's not going to be able to do much per se. So like football, like one person is doing something. But if you get a whole team of people, or if you go with a sport where one person does a lot of integral to swaying the outcome of the sport. So for example, a pitcher in baseball, or maybe even, let's say, a kicker in football also is integral, honestly, to the score, realistically. Those are people that hopefully they don't get got by something like gambling. But if they do and let those inner demons win, that's a whole other issue. The strangest thing that I've seen personally that has come about gambling is the sponsorship with AEW. I don't get that one. That one makes little to no sense because at least in sports, general sports, we're talking about here, nothing is predetermined per se. and everything is at chance, you know, any given Sunday, quote unquote, for the NFL, right? But for AEW, this is a scripted thing. How can there be any bets on this? This makes absolutely zero sense. And then why wouldn't somebody just in the behind the scenes get some info and just get completely rich off of this? You know, like that sponsorship never made any sense and seems like it could be highly exploitable. You know, I wonder, I don't know if the WWE has any particular like gambling sponsorship, but if they do, very strange. It would be very like it would be very interesting to bet on something like that, because then it's like it's predetermined, so it kind of makes things a little bit fishier. Like I said before, I don't want to shit on people who gamble or do it, you know, for the free time or fun time. It's just more of a trying to talk about it and make sure that, hey, if you gamble, just do it responsibly. You know what I mean? Just like anything else, really. Just don't be stupid with it, because there are other things that you would like to do. And with this day and age's economy, those $10 to buy one piece of food could go way better at food than, you know, a 10-team parlay that might get you $2,000, but probably won't. And that's the thing. It's just really just decision making and seeing where you can go. Because again, I'm not going to shit on gambling in general. I like to gamble sometimes with like my friends. You know, I use gambling terms all the time. I know that it is something where if I start, I would probably keep going and not stop. And I think that that self-awareness is something most people should have when it comes to these types of vices. Well, this will be another episode, but another vice that I feel like is like that for me is alcohol. Very easily, I could easily fall back into that. But thankfully, I have stopped drinking for the most part a while back. I drink occasionally, but not like I used to, so I'm very happy about that. But that's a whole other story for a whole other day. And if you ever wonder if you don't know how you would if you got into a vice, look at how others in your family react to things like that. So if, like, let's say you have a gambler in the family or an alcoholic in the family, see how their lives going and how they treat it, because that could be a determiner of how you end up treating it. Yeah, I'll take the parlay. Trump winning the election, the Edmonton Oilers winning the cup next year. I'm gonna say random team. I'm gonna go with Seattle next year. I'm feeling good on them winning the championship. I don't know why Seattle, even though they haven't been good, but Seattle. And then finally, without a shadow of a doubt, basketball. I'm gonna go Mavs. There you go. That's the parlay. And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed. None. Exercises skipped. Also none. Got everything in. Very happy about that. I am on my way home to do some more editing and a few other things. But to get back to the main subject matter here, gambling. I think the main reason why I wanted to talk about this was because I feel like a lot of times many things that are prevalent and bad for you, let's say maybe another subject that we may talk about in the near future, drugs, is something that just gets minimized and normalized. And another thing that's like that is gambling, and just to focus on gambling a little bit, but gambling is just such a thing where I think because of how minimized, normalized, and memeized it's become, people forget how destructive and terrible it can be, really. And I get it. I mean, like, I'm not one to tell people what to do when it comes to stuff like that, because it's not my place. But I think it's good to spread some awareness and some, you know, have some people have some ability to step back and look at what the hell they're doing, you know what I mean? Because then it could be something that they don't even realize is happening, and then all of a sudden they're going to ask what happened to all of my money, and or what happened to all of these things, or it becomes an actual problem, but they're too far deep into the rabbit hole of it being laughing, joking, numbnuts bullshit, that they end up realizing it when it's too late then, and then all of a sudden their life is just completely ruined, and or this has taken a hold of them where it become a vice of something that now they have to deal with internally. And trying to get rid of these things is such a hard thing to do. I mean, people literally have gambling addictions all the time. They always say, like, if you have an addiction, please call blah blah blah, but people don't want to admit to themselves or want to look at at what they're doing as like something that could be an addiction. And that's the thing. I think some self-awareness is what I'm trying to bring to this entire subject, and or just these subjects in general whenever I talk about them, because I'd want somebody to be self-reflective of what they're doing with their lives in all facets, rather than just like the one of like the gym or whatever, or personal health. That's fine, but if you're not really self-aware of other aspects of your life, you could really just go downhill in everything else. I mean, realistically, you know, if you don't have any money, what the hell are you gonna do, really? You know what I mean? If you bet the house on some blackjack table, well, then you're not gonna have a fucking house. You know what I mean? If you spent the rent on something like that, you gambled the rent on a parlay, on a baseball parlay, and it loses, you don't have any rent. Yeah, sure, there's those moments where you might win big, you know, the people who are professional gamblers, but realistically, they're already rich from something else. They never really got rich from doing their thing unless it's like poker, but even then, they're most likely rich from other shit. The people that just happen to be just happen to have gotten rich via poker, they got their money from somewhere. Let's be honest here, and let's be real. Don't fall for that trap, that allure of somebody that's gonna be like, oh yeah, this is a surefire way to get rich, or whatever the fuck they're gonna try to do, especially with gambling, like, because that could be like the sure bets or whatever the hell. You just gotta be aware that these people are just trying to sucker you in, and more likely than not will just get kickbacks from casinos or whatever else they're working for, like let's say FanDuel or DraftKings or whatever. They're gonna get the kickback from these companies and get the money that way. So they're ended up just being walking ads for these companies in order to get you with all your money, and then they don't really care because they got theirs, and that's, at the end of the day, that's all that really matters to them, right? So it is what it is. But with that being said, please tell me what you think in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this in its entirety, particularly the entire idea of just gambling. If you gamble, if you've seen others who gamble, you know, that entire thing. I would love to know your thoughts and opinions about it, because it is something that it's so minimized nowadays and memeized that it's just interesting. You know what I mean? You see these memes and all these things all the time. It is a personal responsibility to make sure that these things don't keep spreading, or else these things will be minimized, and the consequences of these actions will be greater and greater and greater until it is too late and it has become a detrimental part of society. But it is what it is. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. Please keep it heavy. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.